Let me share my screen. Okay, so now we kind of starting our journey to the fifth point. And as you see here, the fifth point is air chakra or Vishuddha, sometimes it is known as, or the fifth chakra. So Vishuddha is also known as the throat chakra, but it's always some confusion around is it like Vishuddha chakra or the air chakra or the fifth point? We'll find out as we read through this. And the color for this is green, and the location is around the throat, as you see in the diagram. And like, whenever you start with the air point, so this is what, fourth. And then you, sorry, air is fifth. And fifth, when you go top, it becomes earth. Fifth is like, there is no 5 + 1, right? There is no sixth point. So it will start from 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's how you draw it. And then you will also see the clockwise and anti-clockwise motions. We can easily understand by, so here, if you see here, the fifth is little different. So you'll have the clockwise and then you'll have, sorry, this is anti-clockwise and this is, you'll have clockwise. You will find both movements here, right? So as you see in the diagram, it is showing both movements. And then, of course, the location of the fifth point is at near the throat. And this whole thing is known as heart region. So the fifth point is a point within the heart region. And then similar vibrations, they say like 10, it's easy, which is the similar vibration for the first point. You can do 1 + 5 is 6, 6 + 5 is 11. And similar vibration for the second point is 2 + 5 is 7, 7 + 5 is 12. And similarly for the third point, 8 and 13. And then for fourth is 9. And for fifth, it is 5 + 5, 10, like that. So it's easy. It's a simple math to know which point has the similar vibrations. You just need to add +5. Okay. So let's read through this. Paulo Coelho, bestseller, The Alchemist, tells the story of a Spanish shepherd boy, Santiago, whose recurring dreams of treasure set him on a quest to Egypt to find it. On the way, he is robbed, takes on petty jobs, befriends an Englishman, falls in love, finds a teacher, and finally reaches the pyramid and starts digging. Only then does Santiago realize that the treasure he sought all along was not the Egypt but back home in Spain, in the ruined village church where he first had the dream. The Santiago story strikes a chord in our heart. Often, in the pursuit of our goals, we jump through hoops and lunge at mirages. Sometimes, along the way, we realize that what we truly seek is within us. So, the fifth chakra exemplifies this tussle between clarity and confusion. So, the power of intuitive insight. So there is a parallel story. I don't know if you have heard it from the Sufi literature. Have you heard this book called The Wisdom of Idiots? Wisdom of Idiots.
No, I haven't heard.
Okay, it's an interesting book. You should get it if you have not read it. It's short stories. So one of the stories in that book is, so there is this dervish, sitting under the tree. A boy was seeking for a tree which blossoms only after 30 years. And that flower has immense powers, immense medicinal powers. So the boy is looking for that flower, and it is also the flower of knowledge, something like that, right? So this he asks this dervish, you seem to be knowing all. I'm looking for this tree which blossoms the flower every 30 years, and I'm in search of it. So the dervish says, you will never get direct answers in spirituality. That is one thing we have to really, really understand. Lot of times we want direct answers. The direct answers cannot be given for a good reason, and this story explains it all. So the dervish says, why are you running around? You're not going to gain much by getting the flower. Why don't you sit here with me and meditate? Let's have good discussions on knowledge, on spirituality, and things like that. And we'll have a good time. Why don't you spend your next 30 years here? But the boy says, I don't want to waste my time. I'm on a search. I have a goal to achieve. If you don't know where the flower is, I'll keep moving. So he'll go around the world asking, inquiring about the flower. And then finally, after 30 years, he comes back to the dervish and says, I roamed around, I did not find this flower, and finally I'm here. So the dervish says, okay, sleep for tonight, and then we can talk tomorrow. In the morning, the boy gets up, takes bath, and as usual, dervish is meditating under the tree. And when the boy comes, he says, look up the tree, and there is a flower on the tree. And this is the flower you have been looking for all along. And the boy gets really mad and says, why didn't you tell me 30 years ago? And the dervish says, I told you to wait here, not to go around. So sometimes what we seek is already there, but we don't have the courage, clarity to look at what is already there. Nor we have the patience to understand that it is already there with us. Sometimes I wonder, the goal we are talking about is always with us. And I have shared this story many times with everyone that, one of my friend asked me, he called me late in the night. He was like, sounded very desperate. He says, in heartfulness, how many people have actually reached the goal? If about 10 or 20 people out of a million have reached the goal, and then my chances are meager. I don't stand any chance. So why should I practice heartfulness if only handful of people have reached the goal? So I told him, my friend, if you understood heartfulness correctly, what are we meditating on every time we meditate? See, the basics teach us a lot of things. What are we meditating on? We are meditating on the divine essence which is already there within us. Mind you, if you are meditating for something, you are meditating on the lackness of it. For example, if you meditate for peace, you think you don't have peace. So, what are you meditating on? On the non peace. I repeated this many times. So, what we are meditating on is which is already there. We are not bringing any new divinity into us. The divinity within, which is already there. So, the idea is we are not lacking any divinity when we meditate. Okay. So we are meditating on the divine presence, which is already there. So what happens in every meditation? We get absorbed into the divine presence. It unfolds in every meditation. So if you understand this correctly, in every meditation, we have already reached the goal. There is no new no goal to reach. But because of our lack of understanding, you call it, lack of knowledge, you call it, lack of proper attention, you call it, we don't recognize or realize it. That's why we have to meditate again and again for something which is already there. So that is when that clarity comes, this goal which we are meditating on becomes very profound. So that's the beauty of this chakra. Got it? So before I share more about the fifth chakra, a quick recap. Our foray into the heart chakra started in a somewhat simplistic way with an understanding of likes and dislikes. From there, as you read about each chakra and understood their qualities, the conditions that you experience, you likely formed an image of a journey with a neatly orchestrated itinerary. First, you develop acceptance at first chakra and then attain peace at the second chakra. On the foundation of acceptance and peace, you grow in love at third chakra and the courage at the fourth chakra. So, having developed acceptance, peace, love, and courage in the lower chakras, you then arrive at the fifth chakra where you can begin to develop clarity. So, whenever you are confused, whenever you want clarity, whenever you want to make a decision, you can simply meditate on the fifth chakra just for 5 minutes. You'll have a better clarity. Right? So now it's spirituality is not about some philosophical understanding. Spirituality is a practical approach. It's not a belief system, it's a practical approach. That's why whatever you are reading, whatever you're understanding, we have to also understand how can I apply this learning and put it to practice in my life. That's more important. If you are a spiritual seeker, you should always look at a practical approach rather than some esoteric understanding and make it something divine and unreachable, something wonderful, miracles. That's all we are seeking and we are looking at. And every time I talk to few people, okay, one miracle, two miracles, and they keep on narrating miracle after miracle after miracle in their life. What does that tell me is somehow you are sort of seeking, projecting all those miracles in your life, and that's why they're happening to you all the time and not for the other seekers around you. So beware of such tendencies because then you lose the real edge to understand and recognize and practical application of spiritual practice, and you have to progress. How do you progress unless you apply practically? You cannot progress. You're caught up in those miracles. It gives you a kick. It's sort of the dopamine rush. Every time some miracle happens, you keep calling your friends and share it with them. Oh, this thing happened. I woke up and I saw some divine personality sitting next to my bed, something like that. So it keeps on happening because it's of your own mental projections. So beware of such tendencies. And when you meditate, when such things happen, meditate on the fifth point. It brings some clarity to your mental projections. So, but while the chapter in this book are necessarily sequential, the journey to the center is not linear. This is another thing we need to understand. I'll explain it to you maybe in our next session in somewhat detail. I did that several times in our sessions, but Babaji says good things must be repeated. So at each chakra, there are whirlpools and curvatures. We did talk about curvatures in one of the, but if anyone wants it, I can repeat it for you guys. So there is this interplay of samskaras, and there are the traps of ego and that ambush you. So, like the ups and downs we face in life, the inner journey also has its own flavor of ups and downs. Here is a mundane example, but helps make the point. A summary graph of Dow Jones Industrial Average from 1900s to 2023 would look like an unstoppable ascent to a greater heights. But then when you zoom in on the graph, you will see that the scattered across that growth are ravens and valleys of financial crisis, wars, political turmoil, civil unrest, and more. Zoom in further, you find every day it's the same story, rising up, falling, cratering, coasting, and repeat. So our inner journey is similar. The ascent of consciousness is the transformation of imperfection into perfection, impurity into purity, complexity into simplicity. So each day you are waging war with your tendencies and shortcomings. You try to gain new ground while holding the line and preventing losses. So there are times when you avoid the fight. You can make a defensive approach and track some of the battles indirectly. So it's the smart way because a head-on confrontation would drain you. So think of it like pacifying a toddler tantrum by distraction instead of discipline. That cranky toddler isn't receptive to guidance. So distraction works much better and is easier for the parent too. So I'll read this paragraph and stop, and then if you need any further explanation on what I said before, we can discuss. So at the fifth chakra, again and again, at the sixth, we avoid the fight and do not undergo the four stages of opening at these chakras in the same sequence. So we did the previous, as we did the with the previous chakras. From the fourth chakra, our consciousness shifts to the periphery of the seventh chakra. The turbulence of the air element present at the fifth chakra makes it wiser for us to approach from the higher state of consciousness. So we'll understand how we are moving through the fifth chakra. Typically, what it is basically saying here is when we approach the fifth chakra from fourth, right? So here, as you know this diagram, like say 1, 2, 3, 4, when we go to the fifth chakra, we don't stay here longer, nor we stay at the sixth chakra longer. And then we stabilize immediately at the seventh. So this is our 1, 2, 3, 4. And fifth, we brush through. We don't stay here longer. We don't go through like how we did with the third, and we go through all the four stages and then we master this chakra. We don't do that at the fifth. We don't stay much longer, nor at the sixth. So directly we go to seventh, and then from there we sort of look at these chakras. Otherwise, fifth chakra being an air element, it is very unstable. You don't want to stay there longer. It does give the clarification once you meditate on this and then you move on very fast. Even through our journey, spiritual journey, we don't stay here much longer. We just skim through this chakra and then we'll also bypass the sixth, or we just skim through the sixth and go to the seventh. And that's what this paragraph is indicating, but we'll read more details in our next session. So I'll stop here for any questions, comments. All right. So if no questions, we can get into meditation.